Never speak in these 6 situations. It could change everything. Your words are seeds, but in the wrong season, they don't grow, they destroy. There's a silent wisdom that separates the strong from the impulsive, the successful from the frustrated, the respected from the forgotten. And it's this: you don't need to speak to prove your intelligence. In fact, sometimes silence is the highest form of it. You want peace, progress, power? Then you must learn the sacred art of silence, especially in the 6 moments I'm about to share with you. Because every word you speak costs you energy, reputation, and sometimes even opportunity. If you don't learn when to stay silent, life will teach you the hard way, through broken relationships, lost respect, and missed destiny. So stay with me until the end, because mastering these 6 moments could save your career, your relationships, and maybe even your future. Anger is one of the most powerful emotions a human being can feel. It burns hot. It demands action. It begs for release. But the truth is, anger is not the enemy. It's what we do when we're angry that defines who we are. And too often, when people are angry, they speak. Not thoughtfully, not calmly. They speak from the heat, not the heart. And that's where destruction begins. When you are angry, your words are not filtered through logic or love. They are driven by ego and emotion. And words spoken in that state can wound people permanently. You may apologize later, you may regret them tomorrow, but once a word leaves your mouth, it cannot be taken back. It becomes a sword or a scar. Silence in the moment of anger is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength, because it takes courage to hold back when every part of you wants to explode. It takes wisdom to pause when everything inside you is screaming to speak. But it is in that pause that power is found. That pause can protect your relationships. It can protect your integrity. It can protect your peace. Many people think that if they don't speak their mind immediately, they're being disrespected or taken advantage of. But that's not true. Silence doesn't mean acceptance. Silence means control. It means you are not ruled by your emotions. It means your tongue does not lead your life. Your mind and spirit do. Think about it. How many friendships have ended not because of a major betrayal, but because of words spoken in a moment of unchecked emotion? How many opportunities have been lost because someone couldn't control their mouth when they were offended or misunderstood? How many relationships, marriages, partnerships, even families have been torn apart by an angry outburst that lasted 60 seconds, but did damage that lasted a lifetime? The truth is, anger is a temporary emotion. It passes. What seemed enormous in the heat of the moment often looks much smaller in the light of a calm mind. But the words spoken in those few minutes can live forever in someone else's heart. They can replay those words over and over, long after you've forgotten you said them. That is why silence in anger is not only wise, it's essential. In those heated moments, your silence is not passive. It's intentional. It's strategic. It's you choosing to respond, not react. It's you taking responsibility for your energy. It's you being the bigger person, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. People will test you. Situations will frustrate you. You will be misunderstood, disrespected, and even betrayed. And your first instinct will be to speak, to defend, to lash out. But the person who can hold their tongue in anger is not suppressing their voice, they're preserving their power. Because silence in anger gives birth to clarity. And clarity allows you to respond with intelligence, not just impulse. Your future deserves better than a reaction. Your destiny is too important to be derailed by a few careless words. So the next time you feel that heat rising in your chest, that pressure building in your throat, remember this: the strongest person in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who chooses to be silent until wisdom is ready to speak. There are moments in life when people will intentionally try to pull you out of character. They will poke at your peace, challenge your patience, and dare you to lose your control. Not because you've done something wrong, but because they're trying to get a reaction. That's what provocation is. It's a trap disguised as a conversation. And if you don't recognize it for what it is, you'll walk straight into it and hand your power to the person who wanted it the most. When someone provokes you, what they're really saying is this: let me see how much control I have over your emotions. And the moment you respond with anger, frustration, or insult, they win. Not because they were right, but because you gave them what they wanted: your energy, your attention, your dignity. Not every attack needs a counterattack. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Silence is not surrender, it's strategy. It is you deciding that someone else's chaos does not deserve to disturb your calm. It's you realizing that your peace is too valuable to waste on someone who thrives on conflict. You don't have to fight every battle. Not every disagreement is worth your voice. In fact, the more someone tries to provoke you, the more it reveals their own instability, not yours. People who are secure in themselves don't feel the need to pull others down. People who are broken on the inside often lash out, hoping to spread their pain. When you respond to provocation, you step onto their level. But when you remain silent, you rise above it. You show them that you're not easily shaken. You show them that you operate from a higher place. You don't just react, you choose your response. And sometimes that response is quiet, focused, and intentional. It takes real strength to be silent when someone is poking at your pride. It takes real discipline to walk away when someone insults your intelligence. But that's where real power lives. In the ability to not need to prove yourself in every moment. Because the person who constantly needs to respond is actually controlled by what others think. The person who can stay calm and composed even while being attacked is the one in control. Your silence in moments of provocation speaks louder than any insult ever could. It tells the world, I don't need to lower myself to make a point. It tells your enemy, you can't shake me that easily. It tells your spirit, we rise above nonsense. This doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you choose when and how you engage. It means you don't allow other people's dysfunction to dictate your direction. It means you protect your emotional space like it's sacred. Because it is. There will always be someone who misunderstands you, disrespects you, or tries to trigger you. That's life. But you must remember, your value is not measured by how loud you shout back. It's measured by how well you guard your peace when others try to break it. Every time you choose silence in the face of provocation, you're not retreating. You're growing. You're becoming the kind of person who can lead, inspire, and endure. Because those who cannot control their tongue will always be controlled by the people who know how to push their buttons. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, smile on the inside, recognize the trap, and remember, true strength doesn't need to speak. It just stands tall, stays calm, and walks away with dignity still intact. In a world that moves fast and talks even faster, there's a dangerous temptation to speak before we fully understand, to jump to conclusions, to form opinions with half the truth. But wisdom doesn't rush. Wisdom listens. Wisdom waits. Because once you speak without all the facts, you are no longer communicating truth. You're spreading assumption, and assumptions can destroy what took years to build. Silence is your safety net when clarity is absent. It protects your credibility. It protects your character. Speaking too soon can make you look informed in the moment, but foolish in the aftermath. And once your words are out there, especially in this digital world, they can't be erased. They echo beyond the moment and often come back louder than you expected. When you don't have the full picture, it's okay to say nothing. It's not weakness, it's not avoidance, it's maturity. It's realizing that every situation has layers, and those layers take time to uncover. What you see isn't always what it is. People act from pain, from pressure, from personal history, and unless you've walked in their shoes, your opinion might not just be wrong, it might be damaging. Remaining silent gives you space to observe, to learn, to ask better questions. It gives you time to respond instead of react. Because responding requires understanding. Reacting only requires assumption. The world is already full of noise. People shouting their unverified opinions, judging others based on headlines, taking sides based on half-truths. You don't have to be part of that noise. Be the stillness in the storm. Be the one who doesn't speak unless what you say is grounded in truth, compassion, and clarity. So when you're tempted to jump in, to comment, to speak out before all the facts are clear, pause. Wait. Listen more. Because silence in the absence of facts isn't just wise, it's noble. And it ensures that when you do speak, your words carry weight, not just sound. There comes a time in every conversation, every relationship, every heated moment, when the words you're about to say won't build anything, they'll break something. They won't help someone heal, they'll cut them deeper. And in that moment, silence becomes not just a choice, but a form of love, a form of wisdom, a form of maturity. The truth is, just because something is true doesn't mean it needs to be said. And just because you feel something doesn't mean it must be spoken. Sometimes the most destructive thing you can do isn't raising your voice. It's using your words as a weapon instead of a tool. Words have weight, and when used carelessly, that weight crushes spirits, damages trust, and leaves invisible wounds that take years to heal. You must ask yourself, will what I'm about to say help this person become better? Will it bring clarity, peace, or healing? Or will it just satisfy my own ego, my need to be right, my need to have the last word? Because if your words are more about relieving your frustration than restoring the connection, they are likely to hurt more than help. People often say, I'm just being honest. But there's a difference between being honest and being harsh. There's a difference between speaking the truth in love and using the truth to destroy. If you truly care about someone, you'll take the time to speak in a way that they can receive, not just in the way that you feel. Sometimes silence is the highest form of respect. It's you choosing the relationship over the argument, the person over the point. Think about how many lives have been scarred not by fists, but by words. Harsh, cold, sharp words. Words spoken in a moment of disappointment, jealousy, pride, or pain. Words that echoed longer than the moment they were spoken. And sometimes those words weren't even untrue, but they were unnecessary, unkind, untimely. There is power in holding your tongue, power in waiting for the right moment, the right spirit, the right heart to speak, because when you speak with purpose and patience, your words can do what they were designed to do: build, uplift, correct with love, and lead people to truth, not shame. The challenge is, our emotions often push us to speak before our wisdom can guide us. That's why silence in emotionally charged moments is not a sign of fear, it's a sign of strength. It means you're not just reacting to how you feel, you're being intentional with what you release. And when you begin to master this level of emotional discipline, you gain a new kind of influence over your life, your relationships, and even your destiny. Sometimes the person in front of you is already broken, already carrying weight you don't see. And what they need is not your criticism, but your grace. Not your opinion, but your presence. Not your correction, but your compassion. And sometimes the only way to offer those things is to simply be silent. The more you grow, the more you'll realize that not every moment needs your voice. Not every disagreement needs your judgment. Not every mistake needs your commentary. Some things just need your patience. Some people just need your space. And sometimes the best way to love someone, to keep peace, and to protect a connection is to say nothing at all until your heart is ready to speak with healing, not harm. So the next time you feel the urge to speak, when your words will sting more than soothe, when they will divide more than deliver, when they will fuel the fire instead of calming the storm, pause, breathe, and remember that silence in those moments is not weakness, it's wisdom, it's control, and it's a powerful act of choosing peace over pride, connection over conflict, and healing over harm. Anger is a powerful emotion. When it rises, it doesn't knock politely, it kicks the door open, storms in, and demands to be heard. And too often in that heated moment, we give it the microphone. We speak from the fire, not the truth, from the pain, not the wisdom. And what follows are words we often wish we could take back. Words that burn bridges, wound hearts, and fracture relationships that were built over years. When you're angry, silence is not suppression, it's wisdom. Because in that moment, you're not thinking clearly. You're thinking reactively. You're trying to defend, attack, release. But what you say when your heart is inflamed rarely serves your highest self. Emotions are not meant to be ignored, but they are meant to be processed before they're expressed. And that space between feeling and speaking, that's where maturity lives. Anger makes everything louder. It tells you that you must speak, you must react, you must defend. But the truth is, the louder the emotion, the more important it is to stay quiet. Not forever, but until the dust settles. Because when the storm passes, you'll see things differently. You'll realize that what felt so urgent in the moment wasn't really the issue. That the words you wanted to say would have caused more damage than clarity, and that sometimes silence isn't avoidance, it's leadership of the self. You don't win battles by shouting, you win them by thinking, by stepping back before stepping forward, by asking yourself, if I say this now, will it help or will it harm? Because words spoken in anger are like arrows. They can't be taken back. They may hit the wrong target. And even if you apologize, the wound may stay. The strongest people are not those who speak the loudest. They're the ones who know when to be silent, when to hold back, when to wait until their emotions are no longer the driver of their words. And this doesn't just apply to anger, it applies to sadness, jealousy, anxiety, any emotion that clouds your clarity. Because when emotions run high, judgment runs low. And your mouth can become a weapon you didn't mean to use. It takes real strength to be silent when your emotions are screaming. It takes restraint to pause, to walk away, to choose peace when you feel chaos. But in that pause, you protect everything you value. Your relationships, your integrity, your growth. You give yourself time to feel without lashing out, to reflect without reacting, and most of all, to respond from a place of wisdom instead of impulse. Don't let a temporary emotion lead to a permanent consequence. That argument, that post, that voice message, it might feel justified in the moment, but once it's out there, you can't pull it back in. You can say, I didn't mean it, but the damage may already be done. And even if others forgive you, sometimes the hardest part is forgiving yourself for what you said when you weren't in control. Anger will always come. You're human, it's natural, but what you do with it defines your maturity. It defines your character. Some people scream their anger and lose respect. Others stay silent, process it, and speak with impact when it counts. Be the second type. There is power in stillness. There is strength in restraint. Silence in the heat of emotion is not weakness. It's the highest form of emotional intelligence. It's saying, I feel this, but I will not be controlled by it. And when you master that, you begin to live above the noise. You don't just survive conflicts, you rise through them. So the next time anger surges, take a breath, be quiet, let the wave pass. Because the person you are in that moment is not the person you want speaking for you. Let your higher self be the voice. And let your silence speak of your strength. There are moments in life when silence is not just a strategy, it's your shield. It's your defense against manipulation, your armor against traps set by people who don't want peace, they want chaos. They don't want truth, they want a reaction. And in those moments, when you're being provoked or set up, the smartest move you can make is to say absolutely nothing. There are people who thrive on conflict. Their power isn't in logic, it's in stirring your emotions. They poke at your pride, your past, your insecurities, not because they want clarity, but because they want control. They're fishing, and your words are the bait. The moment you bite, they twist your tone, they weaponize your words, and suddenly you're the villain in a story they've been writing behind your back. But if you stay silent, you give them nothing to twist, nothing to post, nothing to use against you. You win the battle by not playing the game. Not every comment deserves a reply. Not every challenge needs your defense. Silence, when you're being provoked, isn't surrender, it's discipline. It's you saying, I know who I am, and I don't need to prove it to someone who isn't really listening. When someone is trying to draw you into a fight, it's not about the issue, it's about your reaction. They want to pull you out of character so they can say, see, this is who you really are. But when you don't take the bait, when you choose composure over chaos, you rob them of that satisfaction. And that right there is power. Think about how many arguments, how many social media threads, how many pointless debates were never about truth. They were about ego, about someone trying to elevate themselves by lowering you. And in those moments, the loudest voice is not the strongest one. The strongest person in the room is the one who can walk away, who can look a provocation in the face and say nothing, not because they're afraid, but because they've outgrown the need to fight battles that don't matter. Silence exposes the motives of your enemy. When they can't get a rise out of you, when their traps don't work, they start to unravel. The truth is, people who set you up are often setting themselves up. The more they push and you don't respond, the more obvious their intention becomes. Your silence reveals their noise. Your stillness exposes their chaos. And it's not always strangers or enemies who try to provoke you. Sometimes it's people close to you, friends, family, even coworkers. People who know exactly where your buttons are because they helped build them. And when things don't go their way, they press those buttons to get a reaction. But you don't have to give it to them. You don't have to dance in circles of dysfunction just to keep the peace. Sometimes real peace comes when you refuse to participate in someone else's emotional game. You have to protect your energy like it's your life, because in many ways it is. Your peace, your focus, your purpose, they can all be stolen by one heated response, one argument that didn't need to happen, one comment you wish you'd never said. But silence gives you time to choose the high road, to ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Is this who I want to be? And when the answer is no, let silence be your answer. There is a level of maturity where you don't respond to disrespect. You outgrow the need to prove your strength through confrontation. Your strength is proven in your restraint. When you don't give people the drama they crave, when you don't allow their tactics to touch your spirit, you rise. You stop living at the level of reaction, and you start moving with purpose, intention, and clarity. So when you're being provoked, when someone is setting a trap for your words, don't step into it. Don't let your voice be the evidence they use against you. Let your silence speak volumes. Let your calm be your power. Let your discipline be your defense. Because in the end, silence isn't empty. It's full of wisdom. It says, I see you. I understand what you're trying to do, and I refuse to give you that power over me. That kind of silence, that's not weakness. That's self-mastery.